Welcome back to my faction guide series of Legends of Runeterra, and in this video we're going to take a deep look at the Freljord. We'll look at the faction identity of the Freljord, its champions, then we take a deep dive into the mechanics present in the faction. We'll discuss the cards and combos you should look out for, see which faction synergizes well with Freljord, and last but not least, we'll look at a quick summary of this video. Subscribe if you like what I'm doing and to receive more Legends of Runeterra guides. Now, let's go. The Freljord faction consists of three relevant themes. Frostbite, which turns the attack stat of a unit to 0. Tribal gameplay with Poros, Elnuks and Yedis, meaning you have a high synergy between a particular race or a card tag, and you get a lot of benefits of throwing as many of them onto the board as possible. And then we have Surviving, meaning that your units gets bonus whenever they take damage but survive it. The champions of the Freljord represent Frostbite and Surviving. Tribal does not really have their own champion, but therefore we kinda get two flex champions. And the first champion is Braum, who is all about surviving and even supports the Poro tribal deck to a certain extent. He has Challenger and Regeneration, making him able to choose a blocking unit when he attacks so he can fully heal the damage at the end of the round. After level up, every time he survives damage, he creates a free Mighty Poro with Overwhelm, which can apply a ton of pressure if you have multiple ways to deal damage to your own units. Ash is the Frostbite champion, who frostbites the strongest enemy each attack, therefore making your attacks safer and allow you to deal some damage to strong enemy units. After frostbiting 5 enemies, she levels up, and from then on enemies with 0 power can't block anymore, allowing you to go straight for the Nexus as long as you have multiple sources to frostbite enemies. One of these sources is the Crystal Arrow you receive on her level up, which is a 2-cost card to frostbite an enemy of your choice and then all enemies with 3 or less power. This opportunity in the later game can win the match for you. Anivia is a bit of a trickery hero, dealing 1 damage to all enemies on attack while she turns into an egg if she dies. Only if the enemy destroys the egg, she will truly die. Otherwise, she turns back to Anivia at the start of the next turn, leveling up in the process. Leveled up, she's even more dangerous, being able to wipe the enemy side of the board of weak health units just by putting her in an attacking position, which she does not fear because on death she will just become an egg again. There are some shenanigans we'll look at later in the guide that allow you to get 3 Anivias on the board, which typically means the end of the match for your opponent. Tryndamere is another flex hero of Freljord, and he can help you finish in the late game by providing a high attack together with the Overwhelm ability. He as well does not die, but level up instead to get even better stats together with the keywords Fearsome and Tough, making enemy units with 1 or 2 power unable to block him, and he takes 1 less damage from all sources. If you have buff cards like Battle Fury, then Tryndamere can kill the Nexus even though he is blocked by an enemy unit, because it deals that much damage together with Overwhelm. Let's look at the faction mechanics and cards in detail, starting with Frostbite. The Frostbite effect is typically found on spells like Brittle Steel, Crystal Arrow or Flash Freeze, enabling you to ignore the threat of dangerous attackers or to protect your units while they attack. As soon as a unit has 0 power thanks to a Frostbite, or just because it is a 0 power unit, you can use Shatter to deal 4 damage to the unit, which is typically enough to kill it. Rimefang Wolf goes even further by straight up killing a 0 power unit if it can strike it, which becomes relatively easy thanks to his challenge attack. Rimetusk Shaman is a great way to disrupt your enemy strategies because she frostbites the strongest enemy every round, and Harsh Winds still simply frostbites 2 enemies of your choice. After setting up some frostbite sources like Rimetusk Shaman and casting some spells, you can then use Winter's Breath to board clear all those frostbited enemies while the remaining enemies become frostbited, enabling you to attack and either kill some enemies safely or just go straight for the Nexus. The tribal archetype features Poros, Elnuks and Yedis, but Poros are the most tribal of all of them, so to say. Every faction has a 1 power Poro except Freljord, who has 2. Both the Lonely Poro and the Jubilant Poro are able to create those Poros of the other factions though, enabling you to put a lot of Poros onto the board quickly. The Mighty Poro is an okay unit stat-wise, but becomes better because of the Poro synergy and the Overwhelm keyword for the Heart of the Fluff, which we'll look at in a minute. The Poro Herder adds some consistency to your deck by letting you draw more of your Poros, and Poro Snacks is the ultimate Poro buff. It buffs not only the Poros on the board, but everywhere. The glorious finisher of the Poro combo is the Heart of the Fluffed, which takes in all the Poros on your side of the board to create a 4/4 unit which buffs itself with all the stats of the Poros and keywords that took in. Typically this becomes a stat monster, and if you have a Mighty Poro before, then it even has the Overwhelm keyword to always deal some damage to Nexus on attacks as well. An interesting thing is, after killing the Fluffed of Poro, it will just summon the Heart of Fluffed again. So after killing it, you get simply 4/4 Poro on the board, which also has a ton of value. Elnox are not the best cards on their own, but they get the value from the Troop of Elnox, which summons all Elnox from top 10 cards of the deck, allowing you to fill the board quickly and get a round 5 value spike. On ladder, this may not be the best, but it becomes quite exciting in draft, especially if you can draft a ton of them. The last archetype is Surviving, with cards like Unscarred Reaver or Scarthane Stefan both buffing themselves by +3 attack after surviving damage. Elixir of Iron can help them to survive this damage, and Take Heart buffs them even further after they have been damaged. Tarkar's the Tribeless helps you to trigger those surviving abilities, and with Skarmada Vriena, you get an Unscarred Reaver in big and powerful. This archetype is especially useful together with the faction Noxus, who supplies a lot of surviving units and deal damage to your own unit cards. In my Noxus guide, I'll go through them in detail as well, but here are 3 cards to give you a small taste, so you see why this is a good combination. Let's look at some cards and combos you should look out for. Battle Fury is a crazy buff card that can translate to 8 damage to the enemy nexus if put on a strong unit with Overwhelm. The crazy thing is that the unit keeps those buffs for further rounds, which is why cards like Thrindamere together with this can mean the end of the game. Hopefully the enemy has stuns, Frostbites or so, otherwise this card will hurt. Catalyst of Aeons helps you get to late game quicker, which is where a lot of Freljord's cards really shine. However, Catalyst of Aeons is also a sought card for other factions that love to play endgame strategies, like Ionia decks that play Enlightened / Karma strategy, so they can throw duplicated spells at you. Now let's look at the Anivia combo, allowing you to put 3 Anivias on the board at the same time, dealing 6 damage to all enemies, including Nexus on each attack, while being hard to kill at the same time thanks to their resurrection ability. In Ionia, there's a card that is called Dawn and Dusk, which summons 2 copies of an ally which are ephemeral, meaning they'll die at the end of the turn. However, in Anivia's case, this is not a problem, because those copies turn to eggs, ready to level up into 2 extra Anivias at the start of the next turn. The only chance the enemy has to kill it, or to kill the Anivias, and is to immediately kill their eggs or they are in trouble. They Who Endure is a dangerous card to include in the Shadow Isles / Freljord deck, because typically a lot of units die in the Shadow Isle through cards like Haunted Relic, for example. This means They Who Endure can become a powerful 6-cost card, easily hitting 8/8 or more if the right cards have been played, which is quite scary. The last card I want to look at is She Who Wanders, which is a 10-point drop with a scary 10/10 stats and regeneration, making her really hard to kill. As soon as you play her though, she removes all 4 or lesser power units from the game, essentially killing all strategies that are not focused on the late game. So playing a late game strategy yourself together with this card enables you to kind of cement your win condition. Freljord can work with many factions as their support, but if you want to play Freljord as the main faction, then I suggest Noxus and Demacia. Noxus because it can supply the surviving archetype, and Demacia because Demacia also runs high stat units with the ability to buff them, which ties nicely into the Freljord theme. Let's summarize this faction. Freljord has 3 major archetypes: Frostbite, Tribal and Surviving Damage. It synergizes well with Noxus and Demacia, And keywords that come into my mind when thinking of the Freljord are Frostbite, Survive, Porous, Yetis, Elnuks, High Stats, and Overwhelm. Subscribe if you like this faction in-depth guide and tell me what you think about it in the comments. There are more faction guide videos on my channel, so I hope you check them out as well. And then the only thing left is saying thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.